balance like growth while like not losing yourself. Don't let people sway you to like step out of yourself. You do want to grow, but there is a place where you can burn out from trying to like please other people's kind of way of doing things.
Yeah.
And there is compromise too, but at the same time, not to the point that you lose yourself.
Welcome everybody to episode 35 of the Paul and Pals podcast. I'm your host, Boy Paul. And Paul and Pals is a podcast where I interview my creative pals who are creating the life that they want to live. The goal of this podcast is to learn the how and why behind their creativity in order to inspire you, but really myself, on how to best create the life that you want to live. And on this very special episode of Paul and Pals, I interview one of my nearest and dearest, and probably most OG and closest pal that I've had to date, my boy Lee Rutledge. Lee is a up-and-coming artist and producer who actually goes by two monikers, starting out as Kakuyon.
What I want, but I can't get enough. Tryna blow your back, I ain't even tryna front. Tryna run my pockets, I ain't going like a pump. I don't sweat a tag, if you want it, stack it up.
And more recently as thomTide.
Slept on a mess, woke up to a bigger mess. Rest under stress, well that is a rest. Fire when I walk and I don't look back. I don't face no heat, so my cool don't crack.
In this episode, he kind of breaks down how Track and his friends were one of the main inspirations behind why he got into music. And then he also takes us through his thought process on why he decided to create a whole new moniker, new music style, visuals, all that. And then lastly, he kind of explains why he feels that we should all strive for a balance between growth while remaining true to ourselves. If you're listening to this episode on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other podcasting platform, I strongly urge you to turn it off right now and go to YouTube, because this episode was actually recorded in person. It was the first time I ever did this, so it was actually a learning experience. It was also very fun, very interactive, and I think you guys would greatly benefit from seeing this. The link is in the show notes. Also want to give a shout out to Juan, the creative director, for helping with all the visuals and everything, and making sure everything was pretty much set up correctly. After and only after you finish listening to this full episode, head over to the Paul and Pals newsletter to read a personal breakdown of a key aspect from this episode. And I also want to let you guys know that this is actually the season finale of Paul and Pals, so I strongly urge you to subscribe to the newsletter to be the first to know when we're coming back with new episodes, new interviews, and I promise it will definitely be worth the wait. So without any further ado, let's get creative.
But here comes the stage fright.
And I always start with like how we met and stuff, right? But I think we didn't start off as pals. So I want you to help me with this story, because when I think about it, I think when we all met before freshman year summer, you were kind of, I think everybody's kind of like, yo, who is this guy, you know? So I want you to give me a little insight of like how it was, how we actually became pals.
This is pretty far back, actually.
Yeah.
I don't even know. You talking about before MSTEM?
Yeah, I think, no, it was during MSTEM.
During MSTEM.
But I think like there was already kind of a friend group, and then
I don't know.
We kind of came into it, and it was, I feel like it eventually became a thing, but I think there was like that little tension in the beginning.
Not really tension, but so I actually was friends with Juan.
Yeah.
Like, because we did a summer program before that with like engineering stuff. For the viewers who don't know, it's like, so this engineering like program, Juan and I went way back, so we knew each other in high school kind of technically. And then like we were cool at going into the program, and he was honestly better at making friends than I was. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, I'm gonna just like leech off all of his friends. And then I feel like Juan low-key brought like folks together from my perspective.
And that's
then we had Engine 101 together.
Yeah, that first class.
101.
Yeah.
100.
100.
And yeah, we just sat next to each other and like,
I remember that. That's when I used to just fall asleep in the front row. Shout out Professor Alfred.
Real fact. So you got a higher participation grade than I did.
He was tight about that.
Bro, for real.
Nah, man. But I just wanted to bring it back because I feel like it's just, the whole point of this is Paul and Pals, right? And I feel like this episode is special to me. Like, one, because this is like
the first episode. Yeah.
It's like the 35th episode. We've been doing this for about a year, a little bit over a year. And I feel like now that we're live in person, I don't know how many more I'm going to start doing live in person, but like, I don't know. There was even me getting ready for it. I'm like, I already know him. Like, how do I approach this? How do I make it seem like I already don't know the answer? But nah, I think, I don't know, I'm just really glad that we were able to do this. And, for most people that don't know, they might know you as thomTide, so I'll probably put in the title. They might know you as Kakuyon. They might know you as Lee. But I would love for you to tell us, first of all, like, everybody calls you Lee that just knows you personally, right? Kind of going back, what was one of the most impactful things of your childhood before you started really getting into the music? Like, what kind of got you ready that made you feel like, okay, music is going to be my thing?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I feel like I was exploring a lot of things. It was like, I was always kind of annoying musically. Like, there was this story that my parents would tell of, like, we would do road trips to, like, Texas. And, like, I would just, like, repeat, like, the same thing. It's not even, like, it wouldn't even be a song. I would just have, like, a chant or something. And I would, like, repeat it for, like, hours. And, like,
what's an example
of a
chant?
I don't even want to repeat it out loud.
You can't say it.
But it's like,
bleep it up.
But like my brother would get like super annoyed, like, cause I would just keep doing it on like loop, and it was like, I don't know. I feel like I had like music in my bones, but it wasn't ever like an emphasis. And then I was doing a bunch of sports and stuff like that, jumping around like soccer, basketball, and then like football, and then track. And I think it was like track where I really started to meet like a lot of folks actually, like out of my hometown, like Franklin, Somerset. A lot of people I work with today, like to this day, like we're on the track team. Like we do extra workouts, like and just all be together. That was like a huge bonding experience. Even the high school workouts too. Like a lot of those folks still in music and like just a super tight group of folks.
So were they the ones that got you into music, or was there music in your family? Like, was that a part of it or not?
Oh, kind of. I mean, my dad was like, I feel like he's a real like storyteller just in general, and so like he's almost like a historian. Like he would tell me like, oh, this like Prince, like the Minneapolis sound, and like and go through a bunch of artists and like that type of thing, and just got like the Philadelphia sound, and like you know what I'm saying, and like he would just school me and all this stuff. So I was kind of like had that appreciation for this older stuff. Like in addition to on these road trips, like he would just be playing like what he was rocking to, like, and so even Erykah Badu, I revisited that recently over the pandemic, and I was like, I get this in a different way now.
Yeah,
like she's just like otherworldly swag, like she's fire.
Yeah,
but I think that's always kind of been around. And there's, I mean, I'm sure, I think both grandmothers, or my mother's mother, she played like harp, she like super musical, you know what I'm saying? So like, shout out Miss Lois. And then, she's like, I always had that kind of growing up as well. So yeah,
and I feel like I've always noticed you're a little bit like you're close with your family, right? I know you've mentioned before, like I think you and your brother Kwesi, you guys set a time. Isn't it like a day per week that you guys have to make sure y'all connect? And like growing up was what was y'all relationship like? What's like the most memorable or impactful thing that you feel like he's given you?
Right. No, honestly, he would just kind of eat a lot of the. He would do a lot of. Get in trouble for things. Yeah. And I just watch him get in trouble and be like, all right, I'm not about to do that. Or I'm not going to get caught.
Yeah, so it wasn't like an intentional, like, don't do this. It was like, oh, shit, mom whooped your ass for that. Right. And then I'm not doing that.
Yeah, but honestly, I think I was actually pretty good. It's like, it's not like I would be sneaky and like do the things he did and not get caught. I was like, honestly, just kind of heed the consequences of certain things and just be like, learn from that. But also, I don't even want to put any like bad things on his name because he's the one getting the PhD. Like he's also doing like crazy like great things too, and that's like super inspiring to just watch him like like kind of blaze that trail.
Was there how many years apart are y'all?
1.5.
1.5. Yeah. So like, what made y'all start doing that like once a week? Let's make sure we check in and see what's good.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I've honestly don't. I think when we kind of, because we went to school together, we went to school in Michigan, and that we like even lived together that last year. So we like went from seeing each other every day to like, I went to California, he's still in Michigan, and it's like just being intentional about keeping in touch, you know, like, and you don't run out of stuff to say, you know, like the more you talk to somebody. In fact, I feel like you get more things to say. So it's definitely kept us close.
And I say that because I think I'm trying to be, because me and my brother, like, we're 6 years apart. So, I mean, we've always been good, but I think it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe in the past year, I don't know, maybe because the pandemic or just me being out here in, like, Houston and stuff, I feel like I've seen the effect of, like, checking in, like, intentionally. Because sometimes it might be text, but now it's like, yo, let me make sure I try to FaceTime him once in a while just to see what's going on. And speaking about intention, I want to know, like, kind of going back to your story about, you know, you started meeting some musical people. When did you actually start getting intentional about music?
Also, shout out Peter.
Hey, shout out Peter.
But no, yeah, even being intentional. Also, I just want to make a side note of appreciation for, like, one of my other friends, and this is kind of half segue as well. Cyber, Alex Cyber's just been, like, in my life, too, for, like, a couple of years in music. Just one of probably the most genuine person, like one of the most genuine people for sure, like that I've met in the industry. And recently it's kind of crazy. I don't even know if I said this to him directly, but like he would check in and be like, like, how's your head and how's your heart? And I was like, it kind of tripped me up the first time because I was just so thorough of a check-in. But it also tripped me up because like my mom actually like would say like, how's your heart? And so like it was kind of crazy that he like did that without knowing.
And who is Alex Cyber to you?
Cyber. Like, he's a homie. He's like this could be a cool little story about how I met him. He'd be cool to interview. But he's at first like my distributor. So for context, for an independent artist or even labels go through distributors as well. They're just kind of a middleman between like streaming platforms. So like there's an artist, they give a song to the distributor gives it to the platform pays royalty. one trip in the background. No, then the services pay the distributors, and then they collect all the funds and they pay it in one sum to the artist. So he was working at my former distributor, and he said he was going through the playlist and like my stuff came on and he like thought it was good. So he kind of like, it took him a long time to reach out, but he like sent it to some of his friends, and I heard from them before I heard from Alex. And so like we followed up, and then I was like, yo, did what's his name like tell you about my music? And he was like, no, I told him about your music. And then found out he was in LA where my distributor was based, and I was gonna be out in San Diego that summer. So I was like, let's link up. We linked up, and like he's just the most genuine person in the entire universe. And so like we kept in touch. He's since worked in like music tech, which is so crazy. Like the new like Web3 stuff, like the NFTs and stuff.
Decentralized.
Yo, he's actually like very interesting and just also super genuine. And like there's a lot more to him. I think I wanna let him tell you
the story. Yeah, we can link though.
He's amazing.
Got you. And then you were saying you brought him up as a side note, but I think you were gonna kind of segue into
when I started getting into
when you got serious. Yeah, you got serious about music.
Yeah, I think like. Honestly, I think iteratively, like every kind of push I've done in music, like whether it was like the first few Kakuyon pushes or this thomTide push, it's always kind of like you act, you kind of observe how the world reacts, and then you iterate. So you like. It's kind of like machine learning. I mean, which is based on actually like how people learn, right? You kind of act on the world responds. You see how you get a reward or a penalty for that action, and then you iterate. Like, do I want to do this again? Do I want to keep exploring, or do I want to exploit what I already know? So each push was kind of like that, and like one of those things is kind of like understanding your your purpose or your drive for like why you're doing what you're doing. And that can like really strengthen, I think, if you can answer those questions each time. And so like this year I was maybe a little more intentional, but I was just more intentional about the industry side of things, I would say. Like the music, I was always kind of intentional about mastering that and communicating myself through music the most honestly as I could. But this year was more so, how do I get in touch with people on the industry side and like make that happen? And it's a slow process because people are now a factor. And,
and you don't have as much control. So I guess to say the question again. So when you
how many times do I have to ask?
For the third time, tell us how you got into music. No. So how did you what was that first iteration?
That first iteration, you want me to talk about Kakuyon?
Yeah, like your first, just music in general.
Well, I could even go back even farther. So my other brother in music, Spencer, he's one of your former guests, Shotta Spence. He started in the more fashion space, and so he would make visuals for his seasons, and he would just come to me for scoring all of these, and that's huge. That was huge, pure joy. I loved everything we worked on, even to this day. We can get into that later, but that's he transitioned from the fashion to actually music. So now it's a more production.
And why did he come to you for that? Were you already making beats at that time?
Oh yeah, the track thing. So we were running together, and I would just hear what he was doing. He knew I was making music when I wasn't even really putting out like that. Yeah. And so he was we got to get you on this stuff. And so that was first iteration. It was Lee KT was the moniker back then, which made use of my government name, and then KT, my initials, Kakuyon and Thomas, which are my two monikers, Kakuyon and thomTide. And so that was the first production moniker, and then you can't find anything online, so don't try to find it. But except, again, I'm not even gonna say that. But basically that segued into me as an actual artist. I'm skipping a ton of details, but Kakuyon was my first project putting my voice behind a record, and that was in 2017, right after his debut project Upfall, which was at the end of 2016. Yeah
And I remember that. You told me about that. And I think it's funny because I think I remember I knew you were doing music at that time, but I don't think I was looking into it seriously, or I was saying, yo, let me hear what you're working on. But I knew you were doing that, right? Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until you had told me about Upfall with Shotta, and then you had told me I produced some of these tracks. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay. And at that time I remember playing that album, yo, this shit slap. Mm-hmm. And then when you finally dropped your stuff, I think it made there's something about that validation when you've seen somebody actually do something, because somebody could tell you I'm doing music, I'm doing that, but it's not till you hear it and you're oh, okay, that kind of hits different. And I remember hearing Upfall. I can't remember the 2 or 3 different tracks you produced on, but I'm okay, that's when I knew you were serious, right? And I'm kind of curious for you, even though Shotta kind of gave you that, yo, you should definitely start doing this, was there a point where you were still seeing it more as a hobby, or was there a switch of you got that validation, that trust from other people, and you're okay, let me actually pursue this for real?
I think Now Going Flourish, the first Kakuyon project, was kind of a serious step, but it's you really kind of just don't know what you don't know at that point. Yeah. So I just put the music out, and I didn't even realize how little or non-existent promotion I was doing around the record, and how far it traveled off of word of mouth. It was actually nuts to look back. And I did nothing on a promotional standpoint, and it went up. It seriously did. When I look back, it's it didn't go crazy, but for me to not really push it at all, it really did do very well. And I'm not bragging about it either. I'm just I really should have got 1 stream per month. And it was probably in the tens. I don't even know if I touched hundreds or something. You know what I'm saying? So it's that's actually really well for people to be talking about it that much with me not actually doing it. So that was me getting serious about the music, if we isolate the music. Yeah. And then I think from there, what was the question?
I think I was just saying, I just noticed that's when I felt you were taking it serious, but I didn't know if that for you was also the same feeling of from that point, now I'm gonna get after it. Because I remember you weren't even really trying to promote it. Because I remember we were throwing some parties senior year with their vendors. And I remember there's one where I'm like, yo, shut off the music. Shut off the music. And I'm like, yo, get up there and like do this track. But you were like shy, like you didn't want to like you didn't want everybody looking at you. And to me, I'm like, yo, like you're an artist, you made this music, like don't you want to perform it for all these people?
It went up though.
It did go up. I think because everybody liked it already, right? So I think that's when I kind of noticed like you enjoyed doing it, but you weren't trying to be like, I don't know. There was still, I don't know if maybe stage fright, or do you still feel like you kind of have that right now?
No, I think so. I thought about this honestly, like as far as stage fright is like, I think of a lot of things as the same. Like if I'm gonna get on my hippie stuff, is like I feel like a lot of stuff is very similar, like or identical, honestly. Like, and when I ran track, I used to have like the most intense nerves. Like people couldn't really tell, but I would be just like dead silent before like a race. I would be dead silent, just like focused. But I was you know what I'm saying? Like my chest was going crazy.
What did you run?
400 was like my race. It's still probably my favorite race, I would say. But I would touch like the 2. I hated the 8, but I would touch that and I was bad at it.
Yeah.
But like the 1 I actually kind of liked it, but I don't have fast turnover. So I'm like, you know, even like I guess Bolt, like Usain Bolt is taller too, so he's like not a fast turnover. Like everybody beats him out the blocks, but then he like walks him down. Right. But anyway, like before I still would say 4 is my favorite run. Like, but anyway, that I felt like that was almost a performance. It's like I would have these crazy nerves. It's like runners on your marks. Set. The gun pops, and honestly, like it goes away. It's like you just like run, like you don't even know what's going on. Like people could be shouting like, "Oh, kick!" Like boom, like literally, it's like it's crazy. Like just the world, like it's all like you can't even tell. You're just doing what you're like you've been training or practicing whatever to do. And so like I performed like once or twice, like more open mic stuff, like 1 or 2 like kind of headline stuff, small. Like I'm not like saying it was anything big, but like small headlines. Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? A couple like stadium venues. You know what I'm saying? Like no, but like and it's the same feeling. It's the same. It was like in the green room, just nerves, like you know, it's like you're not gonna. I'm not performing my best, or whatever. You get up on stage and it's like just tunnel vision.
And I relate to that because I know, you know, I used to do this on IG Lives probably for the first, I don't know, maybe first 10, 11 episodes, and like I will be so nervous because it's live and I'm getting ready. But the moment I pressed like live or whatever, and people started joining, I actually felt better, which is weird because it's kind of like you enjoy the moment, and maybe the prep is a lot because you don't know what's going to happen. But once you're actually in it, that's when you're like, oh, this is my bag, right? And, you know, you've mentioned like your first project, you know, now going Flourish. And then most people might know you that are joining, maybe knowing you as thomTide now. And it's funny because I actually listened to both these projects the other day, and I was like, it's just crazy to see the difference in your artistry. And because I see like now going Flourish, you were really trying to, I feel like you were rapping more, and I was hearing your voice, your true voice more. And then now it's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit different. What was kind of the intention behind going by a whole new moniker, kind of being a little bit secretive, and then basically all different types of music?
Right. I think, I didn't know the answer at first. It was a feeling. Like I was just like, well, if you had asked me when I first started thomTide, it would have been like, I have too big of plans for Kakuyon, and like I need to do something right now. Like, and so thomTide was honestly, I hit up Dom. I was just like, let me just do like beat like every 2 weeks, just put out a beat, like no vocals and no nothing, like because I had a bunch of beats that like nobody was recording over, nobody like wanted, but I was like, these are literally my favorite beats.
Dang,
like
they said these beats trash.
Right, exactly.
I don't want this.
Beats trash. No, and so I was like, I want these out. I really want these out. And so it started really small, and then me and Dom just like are just a problem creatively going back and forth, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think at one point I was just like talking about the mural. That was one of the earlier ideas, and then I was telling about the episodic form of the release, and it was still just beats. And then he was like, just for understanding, he was like, oh, like a TV show. And I was like, yeah, like a TV show. And then we finished the call, we hung up, and then I was like, TV show. And then, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm sitting on that. I'm like, no. And then I called him back another day. I was like, bro, we gotta double down on this TV show thing. Like, and it just grew until like the actual vocals being on the track, actually writing about stuff. The pandemic hit, and like there was so much to talk about. Like that first season just wrote itself. It came together so quickly. Yeah, and like, yeah, I mean, just throughout my whole career, some of these songs are probably 7-8 years old. Like, and so it's, I mean, the production side.
Like the beats, yeah.
Yeah, and so like.
So you didn't change them at all a little bit when you started making them out, or you kind of kept what you had originally?
No, like, for example, I'm trying to like be true to like what, I did bring some up to 2021, like add some layers, this, that, and the other. But I think the least touched, like, song was probably like Flower Field. Like that was from high school. I don't even have the original session. Like,
oh, you just had the beat.
I just had the beat. So like Flower Field, I just had the beat. I took that. And Days Since is also from high school. Like, so yeah, probably 8-10 years old or something. That's like crazy. That. Like, and I physically cannot like revisit that song because it's just like the instrumental. And so. Yeah, I was experimenting. Like I was listening to a lot of indie rock, like classical stuff, like what's it called? Of Dreams. That one is also, I think, high school, like late high school, right before undergrad. I was listening to all this stuff and just like fully going in. Shout out to Pierre. Artist name is Seth Pierre. He's insane. Like musical mentor. I remember I would be dabbling in these different sounds, and one time I sent him a classical attempt. This is way before Of Dreams, and he was just honest, and he was just like, yeah, picking it apart, but he's always constructive and super like there's measurable things like,
like you can
do this, and this.
And
he's just always like, he would respond, even if he liked it, he would be like, try this though, try these. Like, no, but he would be like. But a long list of like things just to open up your mind, and like bro, to this day, like Pierre is just like mentor. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. If I don't know, it's crazy.
And I think what I was just thought about as you were saying that, you said that you originally were gonna just do them every 2 weeks, and initially just beats, right? What was the inspiration between I want to just start making music and just drop it every 2 weeks? Was there like a goal?
Sorry. So
like you said initially, like your idea for thomTide was because you didn't want to do everything under Kakuyon, right?
Yeah.
But what was let me make sure I drop these every 2. Was there any inspiration?
And do it. Yeah. So I mean, I think I had some data points about like release frequency. I was trying to optimize like a schedule where it's like back in the day with Good Fridays. I mean, Kanye can do that like every single Friday. But like for somebody trying to break, it's like every Friday I thought there was a potential that people tune you out, especially like as much volume as I was trying to do. It was like there was a possibility people would just tune me out. And so I thought 2 weeks was a good resting period, and then like I'm pretty quiet on social media, so it's like I drop a song and then I'm gone for like 2 weeks. And then like drop a song and I'm gone, and then press like was honestly pretty supportive for like a no-name artist. Shout out to Rosanna, shout out to Danger Village, Sarah. Like they were super supportive, you know, and took Spotify a little longer. But I mean towards the end I think they like started to show a little bit of love. And I think it was part of that frequency. It was just like give people enough like kind of
enough that it's there, but not too much to overwhelm them.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, you do tune stuff out. Like if there's no switch up, like especially after the first 2 seasons, like I feel like I had to introduce the video element because like that really did like just add something different to the routine.
I agree, you know? Bro. It's funny because I remember when I was first thinking about promo for podcasting, I was like, oh, let me do what everybody does. And with most podcasts, they promote their stuff with waveforms. So what I would do is like, I always ask, you know, what are the words of device? And then I would make that kind of be the center element of the show. I make a waveform and then I release that waveform. But I'm recording video every single episode. So I don't know what was the inspiration behind it, but I remember just seeing it. I was just like, man, like, I like editing. I like cutting videos to make them funny or like surprising or make you learn something. So I'm like, instead of doing the waveform, why don't I just do the video of my actual guests and what they're saying? And it's been funny because I've only done it for the past 4 episodes maybe, but I've seen the difference in reaction and it just looks better, right? So it's like, you like you said earlier, you try something because that's what you know, and then you're like, oh, people like this, people like that. So I definitely think that's probably the way to do it.
Hey, shout out you too. I mean, I feel like, yeah, it's not really seen, but like a lot of these conversations are super helpful for like getting ideas. Just yeah, we're both trying, like you've been going crazy with this podcast. Like we were both trying to do some stuff at the same time, like that was in different spaces, but like a lot of overlap. And like you definitely directly gave me ideas for like kind of how to creatively market certain things or present them. So like, yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's funny you say that because I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
I don't either.
I think that's the fun part. I think I remember we had a conversation one time when we were both feeling kind of like, we felt like we weren't,
that's what we always felt. We just come and vent, like, man.
Can I just call you and vent, bro?
This for the birds, man.
This shit sucks, bro. I don't want to be a creative anymore.
Right.
No, but I remember one of the things that came out of that is that although we kind of felt a little bit down and we're kind of like trying to figure out what to do to really take that next step, I think we both acknowledged that even though it was shitty sometimes, it was still worth doing. And I think that's not even the biggest lesson I've learned. Like, because I've thought about quitting multiple times.
Yeah,
like,
same.
just yesterday. So I know.
Right now.
Right now. I just end the interview. I just like leave. No, but like it's come to me sometimes. But one of the things that kind of keeps me going is like I'll get a text or I'll get email or I'll get like a comment, and it's like you don't know the impact you're having on people's lives, and it's kind of like that's what I wanted to do, was to have an impact. Yeah. And I think sometimes what kind of gets in the way of that is like I look at the numbers too much. I think about when I haven't received a comment, you know, and you know. Like I said, I recently started seeing a therapist recently. And one of the things, because I told him about the whole how I felt about the podcast, and he asked me like, well, what are you trying to do? And I said, I'm trying to make an impact. And he was like, do you feel like you're making an impact? And I'm like, yeah, I definitely feel like the episodes are good and I get good stuff from my guests. And he's like, oh, okay, then you're doing it.
Right.
And I'm like, what you mean? He's like, well, if you're waiting on comments, good or bad, or replies or likes, then you're always going to be like wavy. But if you think every time you put something out, you've done something impactful, then that's it.
100%.
And that really got to me. I'm like, damn, you're right. I was looking at it from the response from something instead of what I'm putting out. Right. And I'm kind of curious, have you kind of went through that where you're like, damn, this song only got this many streams, but it was so fire when I was making it? Like, have you kind of dealt with that?
That's never been the reason that I feel like I'm very fortunate to have like unwavering confidence in the quality of the content itself. Like I know if it's good, and I feel like it's more so I do have a goal to like get this to a certain level where I can like eat off of it, which very far from that. But but like you know, it's like right, I'm deep in the red. Yeah. But it's like I feel like yes, I do have those. That's similar to my kind of goal is to inspire. You know, it's always cool more than the validation that like you've shifted the way somebody thinks or expanded their perspective. Like. Because I always appreciate that myself. It just switches things up when you're in kind of a routine and somebody just like literally look at it from like take a step over and see how this like angle on your situation looks. And it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's my, I guess, grandmother's cousin up in LA, shout out Osad, was like telling us this anecdote about her, about Miss Lois. We just talked about her, but about her kind of exposing her kids to things outside of like Gary, where they were from, and like taking them to museums and to Chicago and to like just seeing other things. And he was like, the takeaway like that I remember from that story was basically like, if his words were somewhere along the lines of like, if the hood is the only thing you've ever seen, it's easy to think the hood is the world, something like that. So it's like basically, yeah, literally like you could be trying something from like 3 different angles. That's all you've ever been exposed to. If somebody just tells you like 4 or 5 exist, like that can really like change what you even want. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like if you just didn't even know 4 and 5 exist, like 6 and 7 exist too. They didn't know that either. Yeah. So it's also cool to just like have a kind of diverse group of opinions. I forgot kind of why I got on this.
Yeah, I was like, as you were talking, I'm like, yo, he's spin, but what did I ask him again? Right. But I think we were talking about how when we felt down, and I was kind of curious, like, how have you kind of dealt with maybe wanting certain responses to your music and maybe not getting it or getting what you want?
Yeah, I think that's all I want to do is really, I think people kind of approach things from a certain way. Myself included. I'm not putting that on anybody else and excluding myself. Yeah. I think like one of the things was like the direction of the music industry. You even sent me an article recently about some kind of like very pessimistic things about the future of the industry. And like a lot of things are like, a lot of people view like change as like, oh, this is bad. Like this, my nostalgia lies in this way of doing things. And like, we can't give it up. And like, this is the good way to do things. Yeah. And like this project was kind of bear hugging a lot of the changes that were happening in the industry. Like, people hated the way kind of streaming changed our relationship with music. You know, like we used to own a project and we kind of like had like a book of CDs. You'd flip through it and like find your CD, pop it in, and like probably listen front to back. Yeah. Unless you actually made a physical mixtape or something, like you burnt like just the songs that you liked from multiple albums. But we had this like sense of like ownership and kind of you had to commit to like this body of work. And now streaming is like, we're just hoeing out. Like we got the whole world of music.
Yeah, music thought.
right. No, but we got like the whole world of music and we can listen to one song for 10 seconds. We could skip like to the middle and be like, all right, I'm good. Like I'm getting my like $15 worth out of Spotify, whatever it is. Like, and you're just listening to whatever you want, like skimming an entire album. Like this person put 4 years into this album, and you're skimming on a Friday. You skipped trash. No,
this album just dropped. It's 12:05. This album sucks.
Rough facts. But no, it's like I feel like it did change the relationship with music, but at the same time, I was like, this is just different. And like, how can we optimize this and like change our experience and still get like what we loved from the old ways and like bring it into this current world? Because the world's just going to keep changing. Like maybe we could see a resurgence of a similar structure or relationship with music with with Web3 or I don't know if I'm saying that right.
The new stuff,
Whatever, like maybe they'll reinvent a way to have a similar ownership with music and like, I don't know. But I felt like streaming, I was like, okay, like it's single driven. And like, if you kind of look at incentive mechanism design with like game theory, I do view like a lot of these apps like games, right? So like Spotify, the game of Spotify does optimize singles, right? You, to get into the gory details, like you can pitch one song from a release at a time. And I think they said if you pitch with like a week lead time, you guarantee it's on people's release radars, right? So if I spent like a year putting together 7 songs and I can only pitch one, like like I'd rather put out a single and pitch the entire body of work, right? And it's so Spotify is incentivizing that indirectly, right? So
as in like you're saying like Spotify wants people to, they care if they have an album, but they just still want only one song to be promoted.
You can only pitch one. I mean, I understand kind of why they would do that. It's like you have probably millions of songs coming in like a day. Like the editors are swamped from every angle. Their DMs,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying. And these tools, like people will like try to find their way to get a little toenail in the door. So it's like I'm sure they're overwhelmed. I understand why they do it, but it is incentivizing, whether they intended it to or not, to release singles. So you can just maximize how many are we pitching to these editors. And also it is kind of also with that week thing. It's like you probably want to spread them out at least more than a week.
So you're not,
Right. So with that structure, that kind of also fed into the thomTide release schedule. It's like, okay, 2 weeks. Like I don't expect them to like everyone.
Yeah.
But it's like, let me just optimize all this effort I'm putting in, like get like these songs out. And then also I loved concept albums. I loved like Good Kid, Mad City.
Exactly,
right?
There's something behind it, right? I feel like albums that have skits or interludes or like you listen from the top to bottom and it makes sense, I've always enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, you know, you did this for a year, which by the way, it made me realize how quick the year went. Because I remember when you first told me what you were about to do, and then you were recently like, last single. I'm like, wait, it's been a year? But I say that because I actually was playing it back this week, and I played it from top to bottom. And I think I I knew what you were doing. I knew it was multiple seasons, but I don't know, playing it from top to bottom, I saw how it all flowed. I saw how you knew which season. I'm playing it like in the shower or something, right? So I'm like, I'm hearing this, and I'm like, okay, I kind of know why he changed it. And then I noticed the interludes. Because when you release an interlude as a single, it's kind of like, okay, like, you ain't really giving me much, right? When you go through the album and play, you're like, oh, okay, that was like, I get it, right? And I would love to just understand, like, let's say I'm kind of somebody that wants to start doing music and just art. I would love to know, like, the actual creative process behind your music. You can just focus on the season if that's easier for you.
That's too long of an answer. I don't know, like, it's just deep. It's like it gets into like honestly philosophy. It's like how do you kind of view the entire world? Like I'm not even like trying to cop out. I can't even answer that. It's like, God, I think there's just so much overlap. How you approach a creative act. What is a creative act? I think business marketing is a creative act. Like, you got to be creative. Like, conversation is creative. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just really that, and I'm telling you my philosophy right here. It's like, I really can't answer that. But I do like always. I'm just always thinking about things like, why am I doing this thing the way I'm doing? How I'm doing it affect how the product comes out? Like all those questions. Like I think computer science did shape my way of thinking because like, you're kind of collaborating with this computer, right? It's quote unquote dumb, but it does exactly what you tell it to do. So it's like do this, this, and this. And then it's like, all right. It's like, that's not what I told you to do. It's like, no, that's exactly what you told me to do. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, so you really have to sit and like, I mean, there's also a question like sometimes the hardware is bad, but like when we're learning how to do computer science stuff, it's like you're working on reliable hardware. It's like, you really have to like question, okay, the instructions I'm giving this thing, where's the flaw in those? And so like, it really does like, it changes how I debug even real life problems too. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, all of that has played into how I improve myself as a musician, as marketing, even like personal relationships too. Like you debug something, you're like, okay, I'm upset about this thing between me and this person. How do I feel when this other person does it? Like, are they my friend? They're not. You know what I'm saying? Like, or they are, but this too is affecting that dynamic and like, it's not here. And then like, you know what I'm saying? It's like this whole process, like, and I know this is not at all answering your question, but this is seriously, I feel like they're the same thing though. Yeah. That's just,
no, I think
illustrates the
and you can let me know if I'm on par with like what you would say as the answer too, is like, you're not necessarily like, it's not like a Monday through Friday, I'm going to get in the studio, I'm going to write this and that. It seems like a lot of this stuff is kind of coming along. Because I assume that for all the 4 seasons, you didn't have them all ready, like, to go before the year started. I'm assuming fall, you probably were getting ready for fall at that time, and maybe spring. I don't know if you even recorded it in order. Like, how was that kind of how you were kind of going into it?
I recorded like seasons atomically. So like within a season, I recorded them out of order, but then I did record fall all before I recorded winter. I recorded all of winter before I recorded all of spring. Artists are so different. People are so different. Like some people, and this is a beautiful process, but they need to, like you said, Monday through Friday, be in the studio, make a lot of stuff, right? I just know myself, I'm different. Like I can actually marinate on an idea. And I think a lot of times the product will be better. If I know my intention, my purpose for doing this, and it's in the back of my mind for a week while I'm doing other things that are also like stimulating me creatively and just philosophically, whatever. Yeah. Then when I come back to it, it's like, oh, that's it. Like the moment I step away from the studio, like some of the best lines came for like Ocean Breeze, which is one of my bigger songs. Like when I stop like actively just like
actually working, that's when it kind of comes to
exactly. Yeah. I just know myself, and like everybody creatively, maybe this could be the answer to your question, is just know yourself. Like, and don't let people sway you to like step out of yourself. Like you do want to grow, but there is a place where you can burn out from trying to like please other people's kind of way of doing things. Yeah. And there is compromise too. That's one of the beauties in collaborating as well. You want to compromise for people, but at the same time, not to the point that you lose yourself. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
That's deep. And it's funny because I always ask like words of advice based on your experience so far. Would you say that's going to be your words of advice in terms of that's kind of like a philosophy that keeps you going? Or do you have something else that you feel has also made a deep impact on how you kind of go about things?
I didn't think enough about the words of advice. I guess. I don't know what's one thing that's just that important. Yeah. It's just like, you know, it's just like, I feel like it's an iterative process. Like more than like telling somebody what to do, I think like examples for me are super important. Watching how somebody does something, watching how somebody thinks. Like I feel like more the value than like any one thing I've told people is like, oh, this is how he thinks. Like this is how he puts together ideas. Like, and I feel like I got that from both my mother and my father. It's like, especially my mother, she's like so patient. Like she's so patient and understanding. Like she will listen to you first before she like imposes kind of what she thinks. And so like I feel like I've gotten a combination of like, yeah, my dad's like passion and like this patience too. So it's like and they never explicitly told, my mother never like said the words be patient. Well, maybe she did, but like more so I saw how patient she was and like picked that up. So I don't know if I could say a word of advice more than I think like just observing. I don't know, like.
No, it's funny you say that because I always ask that question, and like sometimes I kind of will have something in my head of like, how would I answer that, right? And the thing that always comes to my mind first is nobody will save you. And the reason I say that is because I always realize that you can always complain, you can always submit and say like, oh, I just don't like this, I don't like that, I wish this happened, I wish that happened. But every time I keep learning, like you have to be the one. You have to be the one that says, let me do this, let me fix that. So that's always my thing, is that at the end of the day, you're going to be the person that dictates your life. And it might not even work out, but at least you know that you were the reason. Like just recently, I just moved and I was trying to get my TV mounted. And it was kind of like, I mean, I could have definitely did it myself from the beginning. And I'm like, you know what? Let me have somebody that does this all the time do it. Right. So I hit up TaskRabbit. I'm like, oh, let me sort by the dude that's done the most tasks. I'm like, okay, he's going to know how to put a mount up.
He's done the most bad jobs.
Right? And I'm looking at his reviews, like, how many reviews does he have? Because it's all positive. I'm like, okay, bet. I call my mans up, and, you know, the moment, like... and I'm like, and I remember asking, like, yo, have you ever put this mount up before? Yeah. He's like, yeah. But then he's like, but it's been a while. I'm like, oh, man. Okay. And I saw, the moment I knew that this shit wasn't going to end well was he started looking at the instructions book mad hard. I'm like, damn, how long is a while, my guy? And it got to the point.
Ooh, man. This was going to be a steep one.
And then I knew I had to end it there because he was like, yeah, they got a bad design. I'm like, nah, bro. It's not them. So, but all I have to say is like, you know, my learning point from that is like, I should have just took the initiative and struggled myself. Because at least one, I would have learned how to do it. And even if I messed up, it's on me. But now when somebody else has messed up, one, I paid them and I'm like, yo, like, I got to pay you for that. And two, it didn't end up being what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's what I would say. But I know that you don't have a specific words of advice, but I still feel like just how you share it, it's obvious that you're always kind of learning.
Yeah,
like, I feel like you have periods of life where like, okay, this is how I operate.
Maybe that's, I'll think about it. I will give, when should I give that?
You can give it now if you have it.
My words of advice is, okay, how about this? Cop out.
Hey, but
balance. I think it is iterative. It's like find a balance. You know, you want to learn and change and grow who you are. But like, it's similar to what I said. You don't want to lose yourself. There's something that makes every individual unique. Like there's a way you see the world. And we don't even realize how different the way we see the world is. How different the way we think is. How different like our like concept of consciousness too.
It's based on whatever we're seeing on a daily basis.
Right. And we can all operate. We can understand the same thing, but our underlying like abstraction is so different. And we can't realize it because we just say 2 + 2 = 4. We agree on that. Yeah. But underneath in here is like, so that's what kind of what I'm getting at is like,
balance.
Grow. Yeah. Balance like growth while like not losing yourself, I guess.
And it seems like you have a lot of things kind of figured out, especially in terms of like how you go about your music. No. But I would love to know like what's kind of like one main thing that you're kind of like struggling with right now.
I feel like maybe to a fault I've become comfortable with the cycle of like you need rest. So like I did a whole year of pushing and growing. And I was comfortable with like, let me take a month and not think about it. Like, and I know that the excitement and the inspiration will come. And so like, I wouldn't say I'm struggling. I just know that it's a downtime right now. And like,
so you're saying you're struggling with the fact that you're not doing anything?
No, I have no issue. It's like, that's what I'm saying is like, maybe to a fault, I'm just like, okay, I don't have ideas right now, but like, it's going to come. Yeah. I'm just like, gonna intentionally take some time off and then like, kind of listen to people, talk to people. New people are definitely in my musical life as well. One struggle I would say is like, I guess navigating the people dynamic of the industry, all that luck and stuff. And one takeaway I've had, I could say throughout the years, like just really kind of nurture the genuine people. Like there's a lot of more thin interactions you have, not just in the industry, but in the world. And it's just like, you'll come across one or two where it's like, this is an actually solid dude. Yeah. Like he does things because he's a good person. Exactly. And that's like Cyber. Like when I say that, like, bro, he's my brother. Like I need to respond to his text actually. Like, but he's just a solid dude. Like if there's anybody, we gotta, like protect Cyber at all costs. There's value in like maintaining different depths of relationships, but like if there's somebody genuine, like really do good by them and just like make sure. I don't know. And I don't mean to single him out either. There's a lot of people like who are super genuine.
He's had just like a big impact.
Super huge impact. Love him.
And off that, I don't know if he's going to be your answer, but who would you consider as one of your most creative pals in terms of like that person is constantly inspiring you, or you're always interested to know what they're doing, or like they put out something like, damn, that was fire.
Yeah. Can I have to give multiple answers? Can I do that?
You can, yeah. 3 max.
3 max?
Yeah.
All right. It's like, nah. I am sick that I didn't mention Vic until now. 808 Vic, oh my goodness. Nuts. Insane. I am lucky to personally know him. And he introduced me to Shrek Knows Rap, who is, yes, on that list of genuine people, an actual friend, love them both. Are these musicians or industry people?
Anybody, like just creative to you, whatever you consider that.
And Shrek is super creative. That's when I said like creativity isn't just music. It's like marketing is creative, and what Shrek has done is nuts. Like, and then Spence, of course, is on that list. 3 tops. Yeah. You can't do that.
How many you want to say?
That's 3. Because that's Shrek, Vic, and like Spence. I'm missing so many that I don't want to like leave out.
Don't want to leave out? But I'll let you do 2 more.
Now I don't got an answer.
All right.
You got my bluff.
You're like,
it's like, bro, you
trying to flex. I got mad dudes. Oh wait, I gotta say it. I thought you was ready too.
No. But just no, there's definitely like people who are just like but yeah, super creatively inspiring. Pierre has to be on the list. If I mention their name in the interview already, for sure. And then like there's definitely people I'm not immediately thinking of that are definitely super inspirational. Yeah.
Now I started asking that question because I realized like one of the things that I think I was struggling with initially, like when I first moved on to Houston, right? It was kind of like after our senior year, like probably one of our most funnest years.
Oh yeah.
I realized how often after that I was traveling to like link up with y'all or do some trips. And now that I'm in this space, I want to start doing more podcasting. I want to start getting better. I've realized that I had to start surrounding myself with people that were maybe not always podcasting, but they were familiar with the space because I've just learned so much. Like one person I've been working on, his name's Harry Duran, and he runs a podcast as well called Podcast Junkies, but he's also in the podcasting industry, as in he just knows a lot of things about it. And I remember he interviewed me one time, and from that interview, I feel like I left the interview like, damn, like I loved how you interviewed me. Like I feel like I learned so much about just the little things. Like I'll be curious about how he asked a question or how he started or how he transitioned. Right. And from that, I was kind of like, oh, okay. So I think it's just good to always acknowledge those people because there's just, I don't know, it's kind of like friends. Like you have friends, but sometimes if somebody was to ask you, why is this person your friend? And then you start saying it, you're like, damn, like this person has really made an impact on me. So, and I think it's dope that you have that around you, and that's really what's going to build you up because there's going to be that time where, that's all the people you got. Yeah. Because nobody else, if you ain't popping, if you ain't doing nothing, like you had nobody else. So.
No, I love that she said that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You didn't say me though. I was kind of confused. Like, bro, I was like,
I feel like it goes without saying. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I was literally about to say. Okay, I'm gonna say it explicitly. But, shout out Paul and Juan too. Like, Juan is a day one. Like I said, he's like the glue. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, bestie.
Juan's a real one. Especially the fact, especially if you listen to this, definitely go watch the YouTube video. It's the first in person. I remember telling him like, yo, I think it would be kind of dope to do this in person. And, he's a creative director. So like, he literally like everything that you're looking at is all him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I was saying like they have entire crews to do what he just did. Like he set up all the lighting and he's like running and monitoring all the cameras.
He's saying some words I don't know about. He's like, yo, Chandler, ISO. I'm like, okay, bet. Let's do that. No, somebody's watching the YouTube like, he did this shit? This shit is trash, bro. But I definitely got to always recognize, the creative pals in your life. I think just pals in general. And I think I'm definitely blessed to have y'all. And I think kind of like to wrap up, one thing I do want to say is like, I think I'm so proud of what you've done. Just in all the years that I've known you. Wow. And I think one of the reasons that I always hit you up to talk because I've always felt like you kind of always understood what I'm going through. You know what I'm saying? Because I always had like visions or whatever, and I'm like, how would Lee approach this? Or has Lee approached before? And even talking to Juan sometimes, I'm kind of like, yo, like I want to do this, but what do you think? And before I think, it's because I always used to be very like, I got to do it, I got to figure it out. But then sometimes you put it in the power of your pals and you realize just how much their strength, their knowledge. So I want to give a big recognition to you because to me, I feel like this is just the beginning.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like I'm excited to document it now, but I'm definitely going to love in the future when I'm like, okay, yo, like he's kept that same way. So definitely want to give my props to you. But for anybody listening that might not know you that well, that might not understand why I'm interviewing you, like, is there any way that, what would you recommend? One, they go check out first, and then two, I'd love to for you to share your socials and all that stuff.
Oh, sure. What to check out first? Yeah. You dropping coasters out here? You nervous?
Yeah, I'm just like, yo, spill all the water out.
Right at the end of the interview, dropping on the equipment like, oh, no. Probably check out thomTide. It's the most recent thing.
Any specific song?
Just one song.
You gotta make it, yeah.
If you have one song, I have to say Simmer Down.
Okay.
Wanna Prove.
Wanna Prove, yeah. That's my favorite.
Hey.
Right. I would actually, okay, I'm gonna give my preference too. I think, a couple just came in my head.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Dang,
the whole thing.
Hard. I do like Say That, but I feel like I go through phases where like sometimes I want to hear this song. No, Take Two. I'm gonna say Take Two. Take Two is definitely my favorite song.
Hey.
So yeah, definitely if y'all listening, definitely go check that out. But where would you want people to follow you at, support you at, hit you up at? Like what are your socials?
Oh yeah, so Kakuyon is still active. That's gonna be the next like project that comes out. That's at Kakuyon1 on Instagram. And then thomTide is thomTide on all platforms.
Bet. And before we go, what is like something that you're looking forward to? Like, what do you think is next for you right now? I know you mentioned you're taking a break, but can you give us a tease of like an idea that you're thinking about?
I would say, what's next? I'm still kind of figuring that out. I'm working with, I want to get some stuff with 808 Vic. Like I've been putting it off for too long. He sent me the craziest thing. I think it's time for us to kind of work on that. But yeah, I mean, same people who've been working on my stuff already. I'm going to put out a new project, hopefully like maybe next year or something.
Right.
Like mid to late next year. I didn't even want to put the timeline out. I didn't even want to put the timeline out because I really haven't put it together.
Yeah.
So like we haven't put it together a schedule of how to record and all that stuff. But yeah, that's the long-winded answer.
Right. No, for sure. But thank you once again for allowing to trust me to do this. I know it's like the first run, but I think I definitely enjoyed it. And to anybody listening, always remember to stay creative. Peace.
Bye.
Thank you guys for tuning in to that creative conversation. I hope it was able to inspire you. And if you'd like to continue getting inspired, there's actually 3 main ways you guys can do that. 1, you guys actually watch all the YouTube videos. That's the full-length episodes and also clips, just to get a little preview about what each episode might be about. 2, you guys can actually listen on all podcasting platforms, such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. Please feel free to leave a rating or review, just to help me out and also get the word of mouth out there. 3, you guys can actually subscribe to the Paul and Pals newsletter, which is basically a written summary of each episode in addition to my takeaway, so that I kind of give what the episode made me think about, what I got from it, link in the description and show notes. But without further ado, always remember to stay creative.